How you doing, Pulsechain? Fat Sammy here from pulsebitcoin.win. Talking to you from a nice little beach. Well, not really a beach. I'll show you around, shall I? Little 360 here. It's quite chill. But yeah, it's been a very explosive week for Pulsechain. And I thought we should do a little stream and talk about it. Lots going on. Chart exploding. I think as we speak, PLS is up 60% in the last couple of weeks. Hex has been going crazy. It's been exploding. Yeah, PLSX doing well. All the cores doing really well. And I thought we'd put that in context because it's quite interesting timing. I still think, in the great scheme of things, that the market is changing. In terms of, I no longer think we're in a 4-year cycle. I still think it's likely that we are in a, when Bitcoin went down for the last 6 months or since October, I still think we're in a midterm correction in an elongated bull run. So I think even if the people that believe in the traditional cycle still believe that we're going to bottom in October, even if we kind of were in that cycle in their type of thinking, if we bottomed now, sure, they'd say we just bottomed a few weeks before, but some people are saying we're having a little bit of a run up now, we're going to get rejected and we're going to find new all-time lows. Now I think if Bitcoin can manage to close the monthly candle, which is on Friday, let's say above 64 or around 63,700, and then for me that's going to be a really bullish signal that the macro bottom is in. So the 4-year cycle guys would say, yep, that's the bottom of the bear market, where I would say, no, that's the midterm correction, and we're now going on to continue. We never had a altcoin season. We haven't had one in 5 years or so. So we've had previously we had 2-3 year bear markets for altcoins. Now we've had 5 years. So I think it's very likely if we have a nice strong close on Friday with Bitcoin above where we are pretty much now, or kind of pretty much where we're at, and we don't drop any lower, then we can, oh, it's one of those interesting birds that catches fish. I'm not sure if you can see it there. But yeah, so obviously there's lots that needs to happen before Friday. We're still like, what day is it today? Tuesday? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're still 3 days away. Oh, it's Wednesday today. But yeah, we're still 2 days away from Friday. So lots can happen. Obviously, we've got the Fed making its decision on interest rates tomorrow. Now, there were rumors that they were going to raise rates rather than lower them, but it seems with that kind of lull in the bombing of Iran, and then maybe interest rates are being curtailed slightly. So they've indicated that they're happy with job numbers. Inflation's kind of doing okay because of the drop in oil after the lull in fighting. Wages are rising in real time with inflation, so that's good. So yeah, it'd be nice if we see a continuation there. Nothing kind of crazy, but obviously the real detail will be in not necessarily the interest rate decision, which is most likely to be unaffected or not changed, but the real thing will be kind of hearing the meeting after the press conference and seeing kind of if there's any kind of key bullish takeaways or negative takeaways from them. And obviously on Monday we have the ISM manufacturing numbers. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're 4 or 5 months now above 50, which is usually a super good indicator. You want ISM manufacturing numbers to be above 50 because pretty much every time Ethereum or altcoins are run, that's been the environment. You know, we want that in expansion. We want manufacturing in expansion. We're seeing copper to gold now start to perform really well. copper going up against gold. Obviously, copper being an industrial metal against a store of value. So as we see a growing economy, we're seeing more going to manufacturing, more going to industrial production. And obviously, we have the midterms coming up. So the midterms, obviously, the Republicans are going to want to win that. And the only way they can really win that is by pumping the economy before November, right? So they're running out of time on that. Whether they stabilize the Middle Eastern situation, that's unlikely. You know, we just kind of don't really want an escalation, really, on that. That's the best we can hope for, I think. With the war in Ukraine, obviously, Ukraine is severely, it looks like it's a stalemate for the untrained eye. Or if you're watching the Western news, you might think, or you're listening to the Trump administration, you might even be fooled into thinking that the US and Israel are winning this war, which they're not. Interceptor missiles are almost gone. There's almost no interceptor missiles to defend the American bases, which have been largely evacuated all over the Middle East. They've got no answer to Iran's large stockpile of hypersonic missiles. It's huge stockpile of drones. It's anti-ship missiles. So be under no illusions. Iran is still very strong. And the situation with Russia is that Putin is under increased pressure to raise 300 to 500,000 troops, I assume through conscription or a lottery type of conscription, but raising anywhere from 300,000 to 500,000 troops and then deploy them onto the front line. Now, the election for him staying in power, or his party staying in power, is going to be on, I believe it's the 20th of September. So we have strong pressure on him from the general public. Even though his approval rating is still higher than any Western leader, he's still expected to win this war favorably. They've kind of been dealing with this war as a special operation rather than a full war. They've been kind of, not throwing the kitchen sink at it yet. Putin was kind of hoping for some sort of peace deal with the West, or some sort of negotiation, so they could re-establish kind of good terms. But I think the pressure is on him to finish this, take the gloves off, and really finish this. They have the power to. Imagine that front line, which is already slowly grinding forward. If you another 500,000 troops into the situation, then there's no reason they can't push forward and take territory like Kharkiv, one of the largest cities in the east. Obviously, Odessa, the Ukrainians have been pushed out of Odessa. They've got no access or no shipping going through the Black Sea at the moment. So yes, very interesting. Obviously, as I was saying on the Crypto 7 show this morning, even though it's I don't support it, unfortunately, these governments borrowing money to buy weapons and is actually holding up the stock market, believe it or not. So we'll see what happens there. I've got some notes here, forgive me. Yeah, apart from that, we've had a very strong month for July. It'll be interesting how we go into August. But yes, regardless of all that, we've got, ETH against BTC finally showing some strength. That's kind of coming out of a bull flag, breaking multi-year or multi-month resistance in a downtrend. So I think we can see a very strong Ethereum compared to Bitcoin. So even if worst case scenario, the Bitcoin bottom isn't in, I think very well there's a higher chance that the ETH bottom could be in. If you looked at the performance of Bitcoin this last year or year and a half, Ethereum has severely underperformed. It's in a large, if you look on the weekly chart, it's been in a consolidation, a large bull flag for the last few years. So worst case scenario, Ethereum goes up and explores the 7,000 region, but it could go anywhere 15 to 30,000, maybe some even saying 60,000, but it needs to break out of that macro bull flag first, which is around $5,500, $6,000, something like that, without my charts being here. But obviously, Pulsechain has been performing very well the last few weeks against ETH. So we want obviously Bitcoin to hold. We want obviously the chance of the Clarity Act passing again lower and lower, but we might see that get pushed through in the last maybe few seconds. I think Congress or the Senate is closing for the summer, I think in a few weeks. So if we might get a chance of that going through. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We'll see. But we just had some good news that they do have the votes for it to pass. We've got 10 Democrats have agreed to basically cross the floor and vote with them to pass it. So that's good. We've had the SEC saying even if it doesn't pass, they're going to basically put in legislation to support it. So that should hopefully give the green light for more institutions to onboard into crypto. So things on a macro level are looking, at the moment, in the short term, a little bit dicey, but lots of things that could pretty much just throw a huge amount of fuel onto the fire. So yes, obviously, Hex is the real winner at the moment. Hex on Pulsechain is the real winner. I think it's up over 200% just in the last 14 days. So that's a 3x, which is just amazing. Congratulations to all you guys that got into that. Obviously, it's gone up the most, but it's the healthier charts. The chart which has actually got better structure is still PLS against DAI. It's a better chart than Hex against DAI. Hex has been in a more aggressive downtrend. So now we're seeing an uptick, but PLS has had more of a bottoming shape. PLSX looking even better than PLS. So at the moment, I'm still even though we've seen a Hex going up the most, I'm still at the moment out of the cause liking PLSX the most. But what's good for one is good for the other. I don't really care what is pumped the most. A rising tide lifts all boats, right? So, yes, what do we want to talk about next? Just looking at my notes here. ETHUSD has produced some very attractive buy signals on the weekly charts, on the weekly market ciphers. We had some strong bullish divergence. Now on Bitcoin, we've got if you go on the monthly, we've got some. If we do close above that 64,700 for the month on Friday, we will get a bullish stochastic momentum cross, which the last 3 times that's happened, it's led to a big run up. So yeah, so basically what I'm saying is it's a very, very important week. Now, moving on to what should we talk about next? Yeah, so what I'm saying is, just to give you an idea, potentially, I'm not saying this will happen, but when ETH does tend to recover, it does tend to have very aggressive V-shaped recoveries. So, who knows? We might get another aggressive V-shaped recovery. Certainly, you've got people like Tom Lee, who are extremely bullish on it, who are acquiring it, and of course, you know, they've been spreading FUD for the last 6 months. They want to scare retail out of crypto. We've had extreme fear. Fear has been off the charts. We've never really seen this amount of fear. So retail just really doesn't care about crypto, which is where we kind of want to be. Let's have a little view around here as I prepare my notes here. Let's have a look. There we are. So I had a nice long walk today. Okay, what are we looking at next? So let's talk about Pulse Bitcoin, shall we? So Pulse Bitcoin, obviously being Bitcoin is a smart contract on Pulsechain, has been the best, pretty much the best mid, when you count all the mid to large kind of communities and tokens on Pulsechain, it has been by far the best performer. Achieving, I think, a 32 or 33x against Pulse since November of last year, topping out against Pulse in, I think, something like May. So it had a nice 6 months or 7 months of just such aggressive moves up against PLS when PLS was going down. Even achieved a 9x against the dollar. So people in PLSB, Pulse Bitcoin, did extremely well. So I'm very happy for everyone that stuck with it. And the last few months, we've just been consolidating. So now, obviously, Pulsechain going up so aggressively, we now are going up in the dollar. We're just getting dragged up by Hart's Law. We've got good liquidity there now, probably around 70,000 against probably about 50,000 against Pulse directly in the main pair, 7,000 or so against EMIT, another 7,000 or so against Peacock, another couple of thousand against PLSX, some more with ASIC. So there's lots of small pools out there. So I would say at this point, liquidity is an absolute sweet spot. I wouldn't really want too much more liquidity. As we double in price, we'll have double the amount of liquidity. So now we've enjoyed being the most price appreciating token on Pulsechain for the last 6 months. We can kind of sit back now and let our liquidity go through Hart's Law and drag us up now against the dollar as Pulse rises. So that's beautiful. And then when Pulse takes a breath, or gets to that kind of next shelf and takes a rest and cools off from the indicators, we can then have a beautiful chance to catch up again. So rotate some of that PLS into PLSB and then start outperforming PLS in the long term. Now, not only do we have the strength of being the only store of value narrative, we have, being a Bitcoin as a smart contract on Ethereum, you can mine it, dual mine it, you can park your PLSB into profitable farms, you can lock it up. So it's so much more advantageous to a wrapped version of Bitcoin just sitting there doing nothing for you on the chain. There's stuff being developed for it, and we obviously have good leadership, community leadership, like myself, making videos. We've got other admins producing good content. There's always so much being produced by the community. So it's no wonder we've performed so well. And as I say, 5 years now with no hacks, no exploits. We've seen also a huge amount of liquidity locked in and added after our huge price increase. So whereas many of these tokens, altcoins on chain, have really struggled, that maybe they had like a few $100,000 or $500,000 of liquidity, and then they've just gone down as Pulse went down. We actually started off with small liquidity. When price went down, we pushed price up, and then we locked that in with fresh liquidity. So we've actually added liquidity in the last few months when everyone else has been just bleeding it and losing it. As I say, we have people like myself, yours truly, coming on camera to give you weekly updates. That's important in crypto. Having someone that's been around for a long time, hasn't scammed you, hasn't done any shenanigans, who's just accountable and always there. I think that's important. We've got some other faces like DeFi Nation that come on camera with me. So I think that's a big play. And people notice this sort of thing, So I think we'll do very well. I say there's not much competition out there. Most of them have been kind of scared off. Most of the altcoins on this chain, they've pulled liquidity either maliciously or just through not knowing how to manage a product, not knowing how to manage liquidity. They've either gone to other chains, or they've scammed you, or they've had an exploit. We see them all the time. Or they just don't really have a community. It's just a lot of the time you have kind of a one-man band kind of creating meme coins or creating coins, and they're just pumping them themselves with alt accounts, So there ain't much competition on Pulsechain. And when people do come to chain, which when PLS starts really performing well, new people are going to come here. They're going to bridge over. Now it's so easy with Liberty Swap and things like that. They're going to be looking for a few altcoins, and they're going to know what Bitcoin is. So it's a really good branded, easy sellable product. Now, supply is beautiful. We've got no team allocation. When we did a community takeover, we managed to scare off all the founders, the two founders, made them burn their tokens. You can see them in the dead address. About 1 million of them burnt. Now, about 98% has already been mined. So we are moving out of supply shock into a real lack of fresh Bitcoin being put onto market by new miners. And the miners that are mining it, they tend to keep hold of it now because it's becoming so rare. So yes, beautiful situation, and Hart's Law works really well when you have a token with such small amount of tokens available and such a diehard community that likes to hold it against a token with supply of billions. So yes, is there anything else I should mention here? Yes. So I think Pulsechain now is, if all the stars align, we're seeing Pulsechain now thrive, even though we haven't got the confirming factor of the Fed decision tomorrow, ISM numbers on Monday, the monthly close on Friday. We're still seeing Pulsechain pull ahead here, so that's really good, whether it's Richard Hart or whether it's some other whales coming in. It's probably a mixture, I imagine. But it takes almost no money to pump this chain at the moment. There are billions, there's almost $1 billion sitting in sacrifice money that was sacrificed for Pulsechain, plus more for ProveX. It's all sitting on the side or sitting in Ethereum, purchased at around 3,600. So we've got that extra booster pack potentially that once ETH does start to get to 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 15,000, we've just got an extra billion or so dollars to just inject, maybe $2-3 billion available to inject into Pulsechain. Just imagine what that does to price. You really start to understand why Richard Hart talks about glory. And even without his own Bitcoin, his own Ethereum being deployed there, just from the sacrifice from a bullish Ethereum, we can have our 1,000x on Pulse, maybe more. So life-changing wealth. If you're in Pulsechain, you're most likely here to make life-changing wealth, not just small gains. If you look after small gains, buy Ethereum. If you're after small gains, go buy any other L1, that's popular, AVAX, or go buy a Pepe token. But no, we're here for life-changing gains. And if you started DCAing at the bottom, then I think you're going to have a great time. Obviously, I am still holding other tokens. We can talk about those another time. So I think that's kind of it. Yes, I wanted to talk about the mining phase. We're about 55% of the way through halving 4 with Pulse Bitcoin. So once that's completed, the next halving phase will only be mining around 300,000 Pulse Bitcoin. So I should mention that there will be a new protocol being deployed. I can't reveal too much at the moment, but that will probably be in a few months. Now this is basically going to make ASIC have thicker liquidity. So currently with ASIC mining token, even though the mining reward is lowering as we go through more and more halvings, the price appreciation of Pulse Bitcoin, we could be at 20 cents soon, and then maybe $1 soon, maybe $2, $5. So every Bitcoin you mine right now, don't think of its current value, think of the value it could be in the future. And obviously that will bring up the value of your ASIC, right? It's more valuable to mine. Now, you can also dual mine Pulse Litecoin. At the moment, that has very thin liquidity. It only has really real liquidity, a very small amount with PLS, has majority with PLSB. But as prices rise, that will have a lot more liquidity. You can pair that at the moment with with PLSB, so you're getting additional yield there. And this new protocol will basically have a tax when you buy it, this token, and it will buy some ASIC and it will lock it into liquidity. So ASIC users have access to more liquidity as we move forward, and that should also raise the price of ASIC, which at the moment some people might be viewing as a drag on the price of Bitcoin, even though it's not really, no one's really selling their ASIC. So yes, that should help with that. It's very exciting. Obviously some other stuff I can't really talk about, but there is a plan within that to go out onto Ethereum as well and do a bit of a, what they call it? I can't remember what they call it now. What's that thing when you attack another vampire? We got the opportunity to vampire attack another big community where nothing's really going on there. So we can bring in some fresh capital, because one thing we like to do is bring in fresh capital, right? Not just sit here and rely on capital already on chain. So yeah, very exciting. I'll try and stream some more. Obviously, you can go check out the stream I had with Crypto7 this morning. That was great. He's very excited. But yes, just to close, we may be entering a very important time for crypto, a time where we're either finding out if we have a end of the 4-year cycle, bear market bottom, or whether this is the bottom of the midterm correction, whatever your preference is. This phase could be very aggressive. Now, if if it is a mid-cycle correction, then I think the price appreciation will be a lot more aggressive than people think for Ethereum, Bitcoin, altcoins, Pulsechain, Hex, and Pulse Bitcoin, right? So yes, I think that's about it from me. Sorry if it's been a little bit flat. It takes you a while to get back into streaming, you know, when you're sitting here trying to think what to say. But yeah, I will keep going, and I'm very excited to have you with us. If you want to know more information about Pulse Bitcoin, you go to pulsebitcoin.win. If you want more information about Pulsechain, you go to pulsechain.com. We are available on 2 chains. Obviously, the one I'm most bullish on at the moment is the Pulsechain version of Pulse Bitcoin. But you can go to hex.com for more information about Hex. Apart from that, I've been Fat Sammy, and you've been fantastic. Take care. Bye-bye.